There's a difference between walking away and being gone. And if you want to get your ex back, you need to understand that difference. This isn't about tactics. It's about time, how it passes, how it changes us, and how sometimes it leaves us haunted by a decision we thought we'd made for the right reasons. Maybe you ended the relationship because emotions clouded your vision. Maybe it felt necessary back then, clean, even final. But now you feel the weight of the silence, the echo of absence, the strange shift in your story that no longer feels complete. If you've ever found yourself wondering if letting go was truly the right call, or if perhaps you walked away not because you stopped feeling, but because you didn't know how to stay, then this is for you. Whether you broke it off in anger, parted ways mutually, or simply drifted in a moment of fear or fatigue, the path forward may still be open. What we're going to explore today isn't just how to reconnect, it's how to return with intention, not desperation, with strength, not shame, with clarity, not confusion. Because sometimes the version of you she needed most is the one you're only becoming now. So stay with me. Like this video if something already speaks to you. Subscribe to Stoic Station if you're walking this path with quiet purpose. And let's begin. There's a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you walk away from someone you once cared about. You don't slam the door, you don't scream, you just leave. And that moment, while it might feel like closure, sends out a ripple, one that continues long after the silence settles. You feel it. She feels it. Even if no one says a word. But time doesn't wait to see if you made the right choice. It moves, quietly, relentlessly. And while some say time heals all wounds, the truth is more complicated. Time either builds longing or it builds distance. It either softens her heart or allows her to rebuild a life where your absence feels normal. The longer it's been since your initial breakup, the more difficult it's going to be to rebuild your ex's attraction. That line matters more than most realize, because you're not walking back into the same emotional climate you left. If it's only been a few days or a couple of weeks since the breakup, especially if she didn't want it, there's still warmth in the air. But if months have passed, or worse, years, you're not stepping into familiarity anymore. You're showing up to a version of her that may no longer be open. In fact, the door you once had a key to might now be guarded by someone else entirely. And that can be a hard truth to swallow. But don't let it paralyze you. Let it wake you up. Let it make you act with clarity instead of guilt. Because every day you hesitate, every message you send that carries confusion instead of intention, brings her closer to forgetting who you were, and further from remembering why she loved you at all. The danger isn't just that someone else will take your place. It's that the version of you she once wanted is slipping away in her memory. You're not just losing her heart, you're losing your role in her story. That's why your next move isn't to reach out. It's to disappear with purpose. Most men get this wrong. They end the relationship and think they can somehow soften the impact with scattered kindness, late-night texts, emotional check-ins, just wanted to see how you're doing messages. What they don't realize is this: kindness, when offered too soon after walking away, doesn't look like compassion. It looks like confusion. It sends mixed signals. It keeps her from fully processing what happened, and it keeps you from fully owning your decision. You need to shut down all contact with your ex for a while. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. You can't rebuild a house while still walking through the debris. The no contact rule is not about punishing her. It's about creating clean air. It's about allowing whatever emotions she's feeling to settle without your interference. And more than that, it's about making space for longing to return. Having your partner disappear from your life is a huge shock, and it's going to create some serious heartache. You have to understand how powerful silence is. Not cold silence, not vengeful silence, but dignified absence. There is something profoundly disruptive about someone who was once a central part of your daily rhythm suddenly vanishing. The human heart doesn't process that quickly. It replays, it questions, it fills the silence with memories, sometimes painful, but often nostalgic. This is what you're allowing when you go dark, her ability to feel, not out of pressure, not because you're tugging at her emotionally, but because you're finally giving her a chance to feel the reality of life without you, uninterrupted. That space becomes a mirror, one that doesn't reflect your words, but her emotions, and that's where the shift begins. But here's where most men fail. They break no contact because they mistake their own discomfort for a sign. They miss her. They regret leaving. They confuse guilt with urgency. So they reach out. Not because it's the right time, but because they want relief. And in doing so, they undo everything the silence was building. Don't do that. Stay grounded. Let her wonder what your silence means. Let her feel that she no longer has access to you. That's what creates the emotional gravity she didn't expect. That's what makes her revisit the good moments and question whether letting go of you was really the right path. And in that quiet, where no one is speaking, she might just start remembering the version of you that didn't beg, didn't chase, but simply disappeared with strength. No contact, when done right, isn't passive. It's active. It's the loudest silence you'll ever speak. And when she begins to feel that void, not as punishment, but as presence withdrawn, that's when the groundwork is laid. You're not just buying time, you're building value. You're allowing the absence to say what your words no longer can. And that, if you can hold the line, is where everything begins to shift. There's something powerful about not saying everything you feel, especially after silence. Most men don't understand this. They believe the absence they created through no contact is meant to be filled with explanations, with clarity, with words that try to fix the uncertainty. But that's not how attraction works. Not the kind that lasts. Not the kind you're hoping to rebuild. Attraction isn't built through confession. It doesn't come alive when you unload guilt, or tell her how much you've changed, or apologize for every wound you've reflected on. That's not attractive. That's heavy. And right now she's not looking to be emotionally convinced. She's watching who you've become in her absence. It's subtle. It's in your tone, your timing, your restraint. It's in the fact that you didn't rush back into her world with flowers and promises. You came back with something different. Stillness, self-respect. A kind of quiet energy that doesn't beg for attention. It draws it. You want them to think, how did I let that amazing person walk out of my life? That moment doesn't happen because of a perfectly crafted message. It happens because she feels your presence again. Not loud, not desperate, but refined, evolved. When she gets a message from you that makes her smirk, not sigh. When you drop in with a light memory from the past, not as a plea, but as a reminder of who you once were together, and then you disappear again, you're not just being casual, you're creating space for curiosity. That's the seed of attraction. Curiosity, not certainty. You're not there to give her answers, you're there to give her something to feel, and in those light, well-timed moments, a meme, a memory, a shared inside joke, you're allowing her to reconnect to something that felt good without being asked to define it. Then you pull back, you let her sit with it. That's what most men can't do. They overcompensate, try too hard, type too much. You won't. Send a meme. Ignore them for a couple days. Bring up a funny memory. There's power in pacing, in not trying to force the outcome. You're not building a campaign to win her back. You're showing up as a man who no longer hinges his emotional balance on her response. That energy speaks louder than paragraphs ever could, and she feels it, even if she doesn't say it. The shift happens in the way she responds differently than before. More open, more relaxed, a little more curious about who you are now. And when that shift begins, when she's no longer guarded or indifferent, that's when you lean into the next step. But you still don't rush. You invite, gently, no pressure, no loaded agenda, no, we need to talk. Just a simple, low-key invitation. This is where you begin to move from digital energy to real-world presence. But you don't frame it as a talk. You don't hint at closure or healing. You don't ask to revisit the past. What you're offering is presence. Warm, neutral, and familiar. A quick coffee, a brief check-in, something that feels harmless, because it is. You do not want your ex to know that you've changed your mind. That's not manipulation, it's mindfulness. You're protecting the space you've earned through restraint. If she suspects you're hoping to fix what broke, her defenses rise again. But if you show up like someone who's genuinely good where he is, who's grown, centered, clear, she feels safe to let her guard down. There's nothing to fight against, no emotional weight to dodge. That's your hidden advantage. She doesn't know what to expect from you anymore, and because of that, she has to experience you again, not through the lens of your past mistakes, but through the reality of how you now carry yourself. And when that happens, everything changes. You sit down, you smile, you keep it light. You talk about the new job, a good book, something funny that happened last week. You don't talk about missing her. You don't mention the relationship. You don't try to steer the conversation toward reconciliation. You let her feel what it's like to be around you again, and realize it feels good. It feels better than she remembered. And when she walks away from that meeting, unsure of what it all means but quietly stirred by what she felt, you've done more than just catch up. You've reintroduced yourself, not through convincing but through calm, confident presence. You didn't come to ask for her back. You came to remind her, not with words, but with energy, that letting go of you might have been a bigger loss than she realized. And that's when something deep begins to shift. Not because you tried to control it, but because you finally stopped trying to. There's a moment after the silence has been broken and the energy begins to feel lighter again, where you'll be tempted to talk, to explain, to lay it all out, the regret, the lessons, the emotions that have been bottled up for weeks. But don't. You don't need to fix anything. Not right now. What she needs isn't a deep emotional conversation. She doesn't need you to go back and dissect every wrong turn. What she needs, what actually reignites attraction, is to feel what it was like before it all got so heavy. Before the breakup, before the disappointment, before the pressure to define where things are heading. That's where flirtation lives. In the space before meaning. It's light, playful, unexpected. It doesn't demand answers. It doesn't ask for clarity. It simply invites curiosity. And curiosity is the birthplace of reconnection. Remember, getting into dramatic, serious talks or arguments will only push your ex away. You're not here to stir up old wounds. You're here to reawaken a feeling. And that feeling doesn't come from logic. It doesn't rise when you confess. It rises when you make her laugh, when you tease her gently, when you say something with a smile that reminds her, you're not just the man who left. You're still the man who knows how to make her feel seen, understood, and alive. Flirt, flirt, flirt. Let her feel the tension that comes from not knowing where she stands with you anymore. Let her wonder whether you're just being nice or whether you're subtly letting her back in. Don't be obvious. Don't try too hard. Let your energy do the work your words can't. Attraction isn't something you announce. It's something you awaken. And in this phase, a well-placed joke, a compliment that lands with warmth, a subtle look that lingers half a second longer than it should. Those are the moments that stir something real. But that only works if you stay grounded, because the moment you try to prove something, you lose the very mystery that makes you magnetic. So flirt not to impress, but to remind her of who you are when you're not trying to be anything. That man, confident, relaxed, quietly aware, is the one she didn't realize she could still be drawn to. And still, as you navigate these moments, it's easy to fall into old patterns. That's why it's essential to avoid the common mistakes that quietly destroy everything you've rebuilt. Don't send long emotional texts, no matter how badly you want to be understood. Don't apologize over and over. One sincere acknowledgement goes further than a dozen guilt-soaked monologues. And don't, under any circumstance, tell her you miss her too soon. You definitely need to be ready for the possibility that you won't be able to get him or her back. And that's not a reason to panic. It's a reason to stay detached from the outcome. Because what you're building here isn't a plea for a second chance. It's a foundation. And the more pressure you place on this moment, the more fragile it becomes. You have to be okay with letting go. Not because you don't care, but because caring from a place of desperation makes you forget who you are. And nothing kills attraction faster than the scent of emotional need. That's not strength. That's fear in disguise. This isn't about getting her back. It's about becoming the kind of man she never thought would walk away so calmly, and who now somehow feels even more grounded without her. That's what creates emotional pull. That's what makes her stop and feel the ache of not having access to you the way she used to. And here's the truth you may have overlooked. Because you were the one who walked away, you still carry something she doesn't. The element of surprise. You didn't fall apart. You didn't chase. You disappeared with silence, and now you've returned without apologies or neediness. That gives you a quiet edge, if you don't waste it. She's not expecting you to pursue her. She's not preparing for emotional speeches. She's wondering why it feels good to talk to you again, and why part of her is nervous about what that could mean. Let her feel that, because the moment you tell her you want her back, the power you've been holding slips through your fingers. That advantage, the one built on emotional stability, calm presence, and confident pacing, evaporates the second you shift from grounded to grasping. Stay composed. Stay collected. Let your words be light and your presence be felt, but not pushed. And when the time is right, not because you forced it, but because you gave it space, she'll say the words herself. I miss you. Can we give this another chance? And when she does, it won't feel like a victory. It'll feel like recognition, like something true returning after being buried beneath fear and time. A moment not earned by pressure, but by presence. That's not a win. That's becoming the man you were meant to be all along. Summary. Yes, you ended it. You walked away. You were the one who closed the door. And for a while that may have felt like the final word. But endings, when met with honesty and growth, don't have to be permanent. Because breaking something doesn't mean you're no longer worthy of rebuilding it. It means you carry the responsibility to rise, not through apologies or pursuit, but through presence, through evolution. You don't get her back by chasing. You don't win her trust again by trying to rewind time. You do it by stepping into the version of yourself that she only caught glimpses of before. The man who's clear, centered, and calm in his actions. The man who doesn't force connection, but lives in a way that naturally attracts it. The man who doesn't need her to come back, but who quietly becomes someone she wants to return to. That version of you isn't some ideal locked in the past. He isn't a memory she let go of. He's a reality you can choose to step into now. And when you do, when you fully become that man, you won't need to ask for another chance. She'll see it and she'll feel it, and that might be enough to bring it all back. Thank you for being here. If this message touched something real in you, like the video and subscribe to Stoic Station. Your support means everything. It helps this space grow and it keeps the message alive. I'll be right here when you're ready for the next step. Until then, walk steady. And remember, strength begins in stillness.